Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. And I am joined here, as always, by a man who's kind of happy that the Bruins got knocked out of the playoffs so early after he sees my atrocious playoff beard. Kyle, how are you doing?
I needed a beer after that one to calm down a little bit. So I got Sam Adams here. That's a Boston lager for you folks. So I'm going to be calming down a little bit during this episode. Still a little pent up.
Okay, good. Well, don't get too pent up. Yes, and of course, drink responsibly for the young kids out there. So we'll start right there. We'll start with top story of this hour. We're always going to start at the Sunday night game, but especially now, Patriots. I thought they played well, but obviously, once again, as in tradition, coming down to a 1 yard play that a team is not able to convert. I'll give you the floor on this one. What were your initial thoughts to Wild Sunday game?
How much time do I have now? So I thought once the offense actually opened themselves up, it looked good. I thought the defense looked bad. I guess I'll start with the offense on this one. I thought Cam was fantastic. Obviously, I thought that Cam and Edelman really were looking to steal this game. I think Edelman had a career high in yards, which is kind of funny. In Cam Newton's second game, he has his career high in receiving yards, which is just incredible. He was fantastic. I think the offense, I'm not going to say anything like Cam is better than Brady. But
just the fact you have to say that, we're already on a wild turn that I'm looking forward to.
But I will say that Cam is more well-equipped to succeed with the weapons that New England has than Brady is. Because Cam's ability to improvise, buy time for these guys to get open, and let them make plays or make plays for them is something Brady just simply couldn't do at 42, 43. Damiere Byrd had a big game. Harry was able to come back and make some big catches on that last drive. Edelman is healthy and was able to make some big plays. I just think that him being able to buy time in the backfield and make plays for New England is just a huge thing for this offense. So once they started opening up, I thought it was fantastic. He was 12 of 16 on yards down or passes 10 plus yards down the field, which is way more. He threw 14 or 12 more passes downfield compared to the game against Miami. So they really opened it up in that second half. And I thought he really stole the show. And it's disappointing we didn't get the win. I thought Seattle was a much better team. I thought they played better than us, but I thought there was a real opportunity for us to steal that game. And that hurt. I thought we were going to win that one. That was a gut punch.
Yeah, I thought a lot of interesting takeaways. I think that it did look like for a second they could. I think stealing the win is the exact right term because they just hung around. I do agree with you. I think Seattle played incredible. I think Seattle's really showing that they're a great team, even with the injuries to their secondary and an ejection in the secondary, still being able to play well. Cam Newton ended up, despite that, with the final stat line of 30 for 44 with 397 yards, a touchdown and an interception, but he also had 2 rushing touchdowns. Got it done through the air, which was definitely surprising. Russell Wilson on the flip side, a pedestrian, 288 yards on 28 attempts with 5 touchdowns and 1 interception. That's an off day for Wilson, right?
Yeah, the thing is I think I was looking at it. He has 11 incompletions and 9 touchdowns through. And one of those, I think outside of Greg Olsen, Seattle was head and shoulders better than us.
Yeah, it's really true. Sorry for interrupting you, but you basically got spotted a touchdown right off the bat. And I do think that Seattle played really well. I also think that we have to talk about this. Your guy, Gilmore, did not look great tonight against DK Metcalf. And this is the second time in 4 games now a big physical receiver has gotten the best of him. What was your thoughts about Gilmore, and how are you going to spin zone this?
I thought the whole secondary looked bad. So shout out to Doug Kidd, the Nesson beat writer for the New England Patriots, put this together for me so I can steal it. Stephon Gilmore was 3 for 5 against him, 85 yards and a touchdown. Obviously, there was the big play to Metcalf. Jason McCourty was borderline just unplayable. 3 for 3, 58 yards, 2 touchdowns. J.C. Jackson, 2 for 3, 28 yards, touchdown. Jonathan Jones, 5 for 6, 35 yards, and that egregious holding penalty that was on like a 3rd and 19. Adrian Phillips, 2 for 2, 27 yards. Didn't realize that Chris Carson could come out of the backfield or something and caught Carson got that easy touchdown. Jawan Bentley, we were hoping that he might get a little better in coverage. He is not. He's 2 for 2, 21 yards. Kyle Duggar, 2 for 2, 18 yards. Terrence Brooks, 1 for 1, 9 yards. John Simon, 1 for 1, 6 yards. And then Devin McCourty, 0 for 1 in the interception. So, I mean, I just think that is just telling you exactly what this problem is. This defense, breaking news, Dante Hightower and Jamie Collins and Kyle Van Noy are really important to this team. I brought up during our preview podcast how important it was or how bad they were in the middle of the field, and how Ryan Fitzpatrick, even in a bad performance, still was able to kind of pick them apart in the middle of the field. Every time Lockett came across the middle of the field, he was wide open. Freddie Swang on that one crossing route could have walked into the end zone because J.C. Jackson just left him. So I just think that not having those linebackers, not having athletic players in the middle of the field to make some plays and break up some passes is clearly just hurting this defense, and it's going to regress. I don't think it's going to be this bad week in and week out, because clearly Russell Wilson's just on another level right now. I mean, if you're doing a front runner for MVP 2 weeks in, he's it by a long shot. But yeah, I mean, just not having those guys in the middle of the field is clearly becoming a problem. And I think that one of the things that they can do is maybe adjust by putting a guy like Duggar in the middle of the field. He came up for some blitz protection a little bit, but they've mainly been playing Phillips in that Pat Chung role, kind of in the middle of the field, where Duggar's kind of been that third safety. I almost think that almost needs a switch, because Phillips is just way too undersized to play in the middle of the field and try and make some plays. I almost think that it almost needs to just become Duggar trying to make some plays there.
Yeah. Also, I see. I see Joe Z in the chat says that play call on the one by New England was not smart. I don't know if I agree with that. I just thought that it was actually first round pick from 2019, LJ Collier. I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce it, but he comes through in the clutch, gets a big tackle on Cam Newton, who is unstoppable in those short yardage situations all night for the stop. I think that was just a big play in the big moment. And I think we should talk about that. I mean, it wasn't just him, but the whole Seattle defense, they knew it was coming. It's like one of those bottom of the ninth, closers on the mound, and just goes, I'm going to fire up the fastball. Let's see if you can hit it. And Seattle hit it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any problem with the play call, because Seattle hadn't proved that they could stop it up until that point. In fact, Seattle and Miami hadn't proved that they could stop it up until that point. So it's clearly working. I think the one thing you have to look at, that even if they wanted to option into a pass on that play, I think the guy you're talking about, Collinsworth, highlighted him. Collier comes in and takes out Jakob Johnson, and Ryan Izzo. And so there's no point. Those guys can't run out for a route when they're getting taken out in the legs by that play. I mean, it was a great defensive play. I don't necessarily disagree with the call, because they hadn't proved they could stop it, and the play was just completely blown up at the line of scrimmage. I don't know if a pass would have worked at that situation either.
Yeah, I also think top takeaway from this game, Chris Collinsworth with the all-time Sunday Night Football story about how he no longer can vote for MVP because he just didn't tune it in one time. Absolutely wild. Jamal Adams was great as typical. Any final takeaways before we move on and get off of the Sunday Night Football game? I know you probably wanted to skip it altogether.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Adams was good. I thought the one thing that I questioned a little bit of what Pete Carroll. I questioned a little bit what both offensive play calling did. First of all, that 3rd and 1 bomb, I guess you can say it's been working all game, so you might as well throw another one. But at the same time, when are they going to learn when they need 1 yard to just hand the ball off sometimes?
Right.
And then I think when New England got the ball back at that point, I really questioned why they didn't just blitz Jamal Adams more, because he was just he was their best pass rusher the entire game. He's almost a defensive end disguised in a safety's body, and he was just wreaking havoc in our backfield. So it doesn't matter if you really have an inexperienced secondary, because the play is blown up in 2 seconds thanks to Adams getting there. And it's not like he was making, as Joe Z is actually highlighting here, it's not like he was making big plays here in the secondary. Edelman beat him downfield once. He got beat a couple other times. I would have just had him blitzing every play. I didn't understand that call.
Yeah. I guess that's fair. We can just move on now. I think that's good stuff for the Patriots Seahawks. But I also think, I guess my final thoughts, still a great night for the New England fans. I mean, you came very close to beating one of the best team, maybe the best team in the NFC. Wilson and also the Packers are looking very good. But definitely up there. I think this is a good win for New England.
Yeah, I mean, it still sucks we didn't get the W, but at the same time, I think we proved that we can compete with any team in the National Football League. And this isn't a team that's going to be 5-11 like everyone thought. I think we're going to be just fine going forward. And I think if this offense opens up more, and I think that this team's capable of winning 10, 11 games. So I think they're going to be just fine.
Yes, we have a comment. The Pats kicker cost us the loss. Yeah, they probably should have rethought that. Maybe drafted a kicker. Could have been a good move for them. But we can move on. We will go ahead now to a very fun, wild game. The top story at this hour: Atlanta led against the Dallas Cowboys for most of this game. They had a 17-point lead, 5 minutes left. But late in the game, things got very Atlanta Falcons. Largely due to a botched onside kick. That was a very bizarre play. What was your thoughts to your hero, Dak Prescott, coming through in the clutch, picking up a huge win?
So I need to take a victory lap on this one with Prescott, right? I mean, this is my opportunity. This is my moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was awesome. I was concerned because they got off to such a slow start that, getting to a slow start against this Falcons team is a problem because it just seems like they could score on anybody at any given moment. And this offense is fantastic, but it's America's favorite pastime of the 21st century. The Falcons blowing a double-digit lead. They're up 19 at halftime, like you said, 17 in the fourth quarter, and they can't get it done. I just thought Dallas was fantastic. They executed, and Dan Quinn proves once again he's a defensive head coach who can't coach defense. This defense was awful. This defense looked terrible in the second half, and they couldn't do anything. And then, of course, those guys are standing there watching the ball roll 10 yards rather than just diving on the ball. I didn't understand it. Like, what is this team doing? They're trying to lose games almost at this point.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of mistakes. Early on, Dallas fumbled the ball 4 times in the first quarter. They lost 3 of them. And I was thinking the same thing you were thinking, where I was like, this offense is so good that I don't care how bad their defense is. You can't just spot them 3 possessions like that. It's so hard to come back from. But they just found a way. I thought a huge takeaway was, again, another one of your guys. CeeDee Lamb was incredible. He had a big play on that field goal drive to win it. I made a quick video about this. The clear takeaway on that, let's talk about the onside kick for a second, because clearly the mindset is like, if it's not going to go past 10 yards, don't touch it, because they can't touch it unless you touch it. But clearly there was a point when it was going to go over the 10-yard mark. They just didn't realize it in time, which, again, you have to think, if it's one guy, it's a dumb mistake. If it's 4 guys, it's coaching.
Yeah, I mean, so I get it, because sometimes there's some funky bounces on onside kicks. You don't want to go down for the ball and then miss it, and it bounce off you and go right to the kicking team. But this ball was almost at a standstill, and they're all just standing there waiting for it. And then the Cowboys are essentially able to box them out and get the ball as it rolls 10 yards. I don't understand the thinking there. I understand that, you don't want to take chances, but at the same time, you're just looking at that play and thinking, go win the football game rather than lose it. I didn't understand the call at all. I didn't understand the execution on that one. I just thought Seattle or Atlanta, that last fourth quarter, just completely capsized.
Yes, I also see in the chat, the great Honk Lives Matter put in Julio dropped the W. Yeah, no, Julio had a bad drop. Julio had a bad game. Only 2 receptions for 24 yards. Again, you don't want to blame the offense for Atlanta. Matt Ryan ends up, 273 yards on 36 attempts isn't anything crazy, but the 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. But he was outdone by your new Lord and Savior, Dak Prescott, 34 for 37, 450.
Pay the man, Dallas. Pay the man.
Yes. There was a moment when Andy Dalton was in for a play, and I was like, oh, here we go. But then that was the only play. I also thought that, you have to say, Julio Jones, he has to have the record for most times a commentator has said, and you don't see him drop one like that very often. He's got to be because it's very difficult to get that set, because you have to be very good. Then you have to also, but he will, once or twice a season, he's due for an uncharacteristic drop that are always like 50-yard bombs in the end zone. The weirdest thing about Julio Jones, obviously he's an insanely talented player. Yeah. Any final thoughts on this one?
No, I question where Atlanta goes from here. You know, you have two losses where your offense looks awesome and your defense looks like inept. Is it? And you're in the most difficult division, I think, in the league, or the second most difficult division in the league. Sorry, shout out to the NFC West, the second most difficult division in the league with those two teams at the top. How do you recover from this?
Yeah, I don't think you do. I think Falcons are dead. That's my opinion. You never know, but it's very tough. They need to get their defense figured out quickly. One more thing, I think. So start select with who has a wild image selection, by the way. With the Falcons having Koo, you think they would be able to recover an onside kick? I actually have a bit of a theory about this. I think the fact that because the way Koo does it is he kicks it in a way and gets the surprise bounce. And that's what, causes guys to screw up. I think, the bounce just never came. And so they were all concerned about, you don't want to go up to get it and then it bounces and hits you in the head or something. So they all just kind of waited. I think that maybe Koo is too good at those in training that it screwed everyone else up. No one wanted to go near it.
They're not used to recovering onside kicks because the kicking team recovers it every time in practice.
Exactly.
Breaking news: Young Wei is detrimental to the Falcons' success.
Yes, they need to get a practice guy just for the onside kicks to give their hands team a chance. All right, we'll move on now. This game is the most frustrating game that has ever happened in my life. If you don't follow me on Twitter, I was inches away from an all-time bet of I like to bet every now and then. I put like 10. I don't go crazy. I put like $10 on usually like 5 or 6 games, and then I always put 10 on the parlay just because out of as like a lottery ticket thing. This time I had 8 games, 7 of them go right. I had the Chiefs minus 8.5, and I absolutely hate everyone on the Kansas City Chiefs now. Anthony Lynn with a great game plan, and of course the guy who I trashed all draft comes along and plays incredibly well. I still think the reason that that the Chiefs didn't win by more was because of Anthony Lynn's game plan. But this one was a rough one. Herbert looked great. What are your unbiased thoughts? Because all of my thoughts are very biased.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a guy who was high on Herbert either because I had just seen him no-show so many games at Oregon throughout his college career. And especially in big games, he just no-showed. But he was awesome in this one. 311 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had the bad pick because the rookie cornerback for Kansas City continues to make picks where he's in the right place at the right time. Snead. And I thought that the way Anthony Lynn used Austin Eckler in this one was fantastic. He really set the tone with getting him in space, and he was just making Chiefs miss the entire time. I thought the Chiefs defense did not look good in this one. Despite only giving up 20 points, there was so much space in the middle of the field for Eckler. I don't know what was going on there.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. I think it's a bit of a concerning thing for the Chiefs, I think. I think it's a bit concerning. I think it's a bit concerning. Listen, Mahomes ended the day with 300 yards, no interceptions, and 2 touchdowns, but he threw the ball 47 times. So he didn't have a great yards per attempt. He also was their leading rusher today. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was fine, but 38 yards on 10 carries. I think this is fair to be a bit concerned if you are a Chiefs fan. Again, the concern is, are we going to win the Super Bowl? Now, we might be the second most likely to win the Super Bowl, so it's not a huge concern. But I do think that this is we've started to see this a little bit now where, they bleed. They're a human team at this point.
Yeah, I mean, is it crazy to say that Baltimore looks head and shoulders better than them right now? I think that Baltimore looks fantastic and they look very beatable, especially with those linebackers they're putting on the field. I just feel like Lamar's just going to have a field day against those guys if they end up meeting each other in the playoffs. I mean, but at the end of the day, Kansas City really battled in this one. I think, I was a lot higher on the Chargers than you were in preseason, and a lot of it was because of this defense. Joey Bosa, if they had won this game, I probably would have said Joey Bosa was the player of the week. He was so good in this one, despite I think he only had 1 sack, but he was just in the backfield almost every play. And it came down to Mahomes made a throw that probably 3 people in NFL history could make, and he did it when the team needed it most. That was an incredible throw on the run, 50-yard bomb right into the hands of Tyreek Hill, and that was just enough. That was all they needed because it was just all they needed. That offense ended up figuring it out at the end and making those plays.
Yeah, and what's actually even more incredible is that you say Joey Bosa only had 1 sack. In fact, the entire team only had 1 sack. which is just wild because I felt like they had pressure all game. But that's just that's a Mahomes stat to me. The fact that he's just able to not allow those negative plays. He does such an amazing job. He doesn't turn the ball over. He doesn't get sacked very often. So even though this was not Mahomes, it reminds me a little bit of the Super Bowl. Even though I think Mahomes was worse in the beginning of the Super Bowl and better at the end of the Super Bowl, but just in the sense that he's just hanging around there and he's just keeping his team in it, even though things aren't going well. But we got to talk. And also, one more thing is that we'll get a chance to see who's better right now, the Chiefs or Ravens. They play each other Monday Night Football next week. That should be an electric game. But yeah, we got to talk a little bit more about Herbert, though. I mean, he was great today, right? I mean, like for a rookie, he had a couple rookie mistakes. As I said, the fundamentals, that's what fixed it. His fundamentals looked great, by the way. I was angrily noticing that. I was desperately hoping for a pick six. He was fantastic. I got to give him a ton of credit. I did not give him a ton of credit into the draft. And again, just one game. I'm not going to overreact, but great story for him as someone who literally found out 5 to 10 seconds before kickoff that he was going to be starting.
Yeah, he threw the ball really well. He lived up to the expectations or the hype almost. His arm's a cannon. He almost threw it too hard for his receivers multiple times, and he still looked really good. I mean, I think the one thing, he looks back, it was rookie mistakes, but the two mistakes are pretty monumental. There was the 3rd and goal where he faked the handoff the wrong way, and it kind of became busted, and then lofting that ball up to Snead, which wasn't a good throw. But I mean, besides that, I thought he was very good. And yeah, I mean, they did the right thing, outside of, they looked at first week, they said, we're going to get the ball to Keenan Allen more. We're going to get Eckler in space more. We're going to swing him out wide, and we're going to let these two guys who are our best two players make plays. And I think it worked. I think a lot of it had to do with the Chiefs linebackers too, which we talked about a little bit, but at the same time, those guys are big time players, and Herbert put him in a position to be successful.
Yeah, agreed. We can move on from that now. The game I desperately want to move on from. Let's get back to happy news for me. Let's make me feel better. Let's talk some Panthers, Buccaneers. The Bucs are back. Defense looked great. There was a moment there where things got a little bit sketchy, but they recovered nicely. And I think it's safe to say that we are now back to being Super Bowl favorites.
Oh, geez. I thought they looked solid. I thought, I think the biggest takeaway for this one for the Bucs team was that they're still not at full strength. They still look they bounced back. Like I said, they look solid. And Leonard Fournette showed out in this one. And he showed what he could really be for this offense, because just between running and catching the ball, he's just so talented in all aspects of the game. You just wanted to see him harness that talent as best as possible, and he showed his best version today. Brady, the stat line doesn't look fantastic. But I don't know who number 15 is for the Buccaneers. That was embarrassing to miss the ball with your hands and have it hit off your face mask. And then LaShawn McCoy dropped the pass in the end zone too. So I don't think he was at his best, but at the same time, I thought he was good. And, if those two guys catch the ball, that's 2 touchdowns potentially that they have. And they still don't have Chris Godwin. So this team still isn't at full strength, and I thought they looked solid. I'm keeping it all in respective terms because, I'm still not very high on the Panthers and that secondary, but I thought it was a solid game overall and a much needed bounce back.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, that's Cyril Grayson is number 15. I believe he's usually a 6th wide receiver, so he's not someone who's getting too much playing time. Brady 23 for 35 with 217 yards, 11 of those receptions to halfbacks. LaShawn McCoy did, as you said, drop the one in the end zone. He did have 5 catches. And the biggest takeaway on offense for Tampa Bay, Leonard Fournette has 103 yards, 2 touchdowns on just 12 carries. He was dominant when he had the ball. Obviously, a big one being the game-clinching touchdown at the end. He was looking good. For the Panthers, I think this was a rough one. I think this is probably a very frustrating game, as you're kind of you are who we thought you were type of game for them. Their defense looked bad, and I think their offense definitely looked streaky at times. Bridgewater, his stats are great, except for the fact that he had no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. There was some bad turnovers for Carolina, and I think that the reality is I still don't know if Bridgewater is a $30 million man. But, again, I'm not going to blame it all on the quarterback, but It just seems like this really does strike you as a team that's a year away, and I think that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm a big fan of Matt Rule, and he's notorious in college for second year turnarounds, and this defense is built to like you said, defense is not built to be good this year. They drafted all defensive players. It's a young team. It's going to get better. It's going to take the bumps. It's going to take the learning curve. But yeah, I mean, they battled back in this one. They fought hard, but I mean, once McCaffrey went out in the second half, that was pretty much it. I think he pulled his hamstring. Hopefully he's good to go because he's so fun to watch. But I think this is a team gearing for Justin Fields, Trey Lance, potentially. I'm not going to say Trevor Lawrence because you might as well just give him a Jets helmet now at this point.
Right.
But Trey Lance or Justin Fields would fit in really nicely with this team, and I think that's just kind of what they're gearing towards.
Yeah, someone said the chemistry with Evans is real. Yes, Brady had a great back shoulder throw to Evans. That's not one that Jameis Winston throws. That was the throw. I'm like, oh, right, this is a different quarterback for sure. Someone also mentioned, that if the names are hard to pronounce, I'm just going to call you someone. Apologies. But Panthers were kind of catching up in the third quarter. They made a game of it, absolutely. But clearly McCaffrey is just so much for this Panthers team. And it really goes to show. I mean, a guy like McCaffrey, I know, again, only 3.3 yards per carry, still had 2 touchdowns. But like just the threat of him and how it takes all 11 guys to make the tackle. And even a team like Tampa, who I think matches up nicely against this Panthers defense, he was still able to find ways to impact his team. I think a good game for Tampa Bay, and Carolina, some upside. We'll see what they do next year, I think, or at least next week. Who knows? We'll move on now to a team that maybe wishes it was next year already so they could get rid of their coach in the Detroit Lions. Another rough one. I've seen that a lot of people are firing. It's never a good thing when the fire your coach conversations are happening after week 2, and it's actually not after week 2 because they were happening after last week as well. Detroit had an early lead in this one, but after that, it was all the Aaron Jones and Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers with 240 yards on 30 attempts, but 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And Aaron Jones, 168 yards, 2 touchdowns on just 18 carries. He had 168 yards, averaging 9.3 yards per carry, including a big 80-yard touchdown run. What was your takeaway from this one?
That goes with 4 catches, 68 yards, and a touchdown, too. Right. Yeah, so I took my Dak Prescott victory lap. Do I get to take my Aaron Jones victory lap now with this one? My God, the guy was just fantastic. I mean, so that 80-yard touchdown, I guess we should talk about the Lions tackling on this one because 2 safeties just looked at him and almost did like the Matador thing and like waving him through as he went for 80 yards. Yeah, that was not good. That's my professional analysis. That was not good.
Not good.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I mean, good thing it wasn't, I know Matt Patricia has the impeccable fourth quarter resume that he brought up last week with that, that Malcolm Butler call. But of course, they didn't have to blow the lead in the second half. They could blow it in the first half if they wanted to.
Yes.
So they jumped out to an early 14-3 lead, and then Aaron Jones just got going, and he took over this one.
Yes, following that Bill Belichick coaching tree of first Bill O'Brien in the playoffs, now Matt Patricia in week 2. Definitely a rough one. I see that Luke 14 says, what do you think the Lions have to do to change and be good? I think just to change your coach, maybe get some better pass rushers. But I think that it really is. I mean, like, again, I know it's kind of a lazy take to say coaching, but it just seems like it's all coaching. I saw Hook Camp has a video on his own channel talking about the coaching miscues. And week 1, where I said, like, let's not blame all on Patricia. I still said in that video he has to go, and he definitely has to go. But let's shift gears a little bit and talk about how good this Green Bay Packers team is. And the Aaron Rodgers FU tour is continuing. This is looking like this is going to be a team to be reckoned with in the near future.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is, I didn't think that they played like a 13-win team last season. I thought there was parts where the offense looked discombobulated. I thought there was parts where they made the NFC Championship game, sure, but I thought they were pretty head and shoulders below San Francisco in that game. Now I look at this team, and it looks like an extra year with Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers paired together has worked out a lot of the kinks in that offense because that offense is not missing a beat at all. I think they look fantastic in this one, and I mean, that this Rodgers revenge tour is looking good. He's playing poised. He's playing fantastic. I mean, there's not enough adjectives to describe how good Rodgers has been so far this season.
Yeah, definitely a promising start. They have New Orleans next week. That should be again a true test. Some good matchups next week. That'll be an interesting one. Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's go to a close game. Surprisingly close game, maybe. Although Jacksonville is proving they are not an easy out. After beating Indianapolis, they come very close to beating Tennessee. Both offenses look very good in this game. I think that neither defense was spectacular, but clearly the Jaguars' defense was worse. Minshew ends up going 30 for 45, 339 yards, 3 touchdowns, did throw 2 picks. On the flip side, Tannehill only threw the ball 24 times, but had 239 yards, so nearly 10 yards per attempt, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. James Robinson was the best back in this game with over 100 yards, but despite that, Tennessee ekes out a victory.
Yeah, so it was crazy because at the end of the third quarter, or I think it was the start of the fourth even, I was looking at it, and Ryan Tannehill had a perfect passer rating. He had a perfect passer rating of 158.3 at that point as Jaguars start staging this comeback. And I'm like, he's going to have a perfect game but lose. And I just thought it was the craziest thing. I mean, Minshew's last interception was unfortunate. It was deflected at the line of scrimmage. And, they had a shot to win the game at this one. Jaguars are looking very frisky. They're making a lot of plays. And I think it's a really fun team. I think that it's a team that plays, you talk about some of the guys they let go, like guys like Jalen Ramsey, guys like Yannick Ngakoue. It plays like a team almost with, not to be a cliche like talking head, but it's a team that plays with no ego. And it just a team that plays really hard and plays for each other, it almost seems like. And they've almost taken 2 games. They're almost 2-0 with 2 division wins. But, the Titans just got that one done. They were the better team. But at the end of the day, Jaguars fought.
Yeah, absolutely. The rookie is coming up big. Chason with his first sack. Obviously, Henderson had the interception last week. Rookie's looking very good in that draft class. Yeah, I think that this is an issue. I do think that it's fair to say Jacksonville is a much better team than we realize. I don't know if they're a playoff team. I don't know if they have that talent. But as Honk Lives Matter says, the Jags are the people's champ. And it really is true. They're such an easy team to root for. You see Kenneth Lee saying Minshew blew up that tank. Yes, the tank job not working too well. And who knows? I mean, I remember it wasn't that long ago, the Tyrod Taylor Buffalo Bills were quote unquote tanking. They end up squeaking into the postseason. So maybe they could make something work. And yeah, also see how guys matter. James Robinson for Rookie of the Year. Through 2 games, he has been, honestly. I mean, through 2 games, he's been great.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess I'll ask one question about the Titans because they have looked good through 2 weeks. But my one question is there a panic meter yet for Derrick Henry?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I thought he looked good. I'm not sure what his stat line was in week 1. I'll check that out. But I thought he looked good week 1, even though maybe I don't know if the stats were. I mean, there's still moments when he's just unstoppable and he can just get you 9 yards. And the main thing he's doing is he's opening up the play action to where Tannehill can do his stuff. So I'm not really too concerned about that. Yeah. I don't think. I also think it's talking about a panic meter. Gostkowski looked nice today. He did have a missed field goal, but he made 2 long ones. So that's definitely a big bounce back after his abysmal Monday night performance.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to be fine. Henry has yet to hit 4 yards a carry. That's the only reason I asked. And if he's not able to set the tone with consistent carries, what is the ceiling of this team, I guess would be my question. But right now they look like the best team in the division. The Colts did bounce back, but right now 2-0 at the top. They've looked like the best team. So I think that they have to feel good, but at the same time, if he's not able to set that tone, I think that's something you have to begin to worry about. What is the ceiling of this team, in my opinion?
Yes. I also see someone says, put some respect on DJ Chark's name. He's awesome. Absolutely. DJ Chark deserves a ton of credit as well. I think that's fair. I think everything you're saying is totally fair. The good thing for Henry is he's playing Minnesota. So congratulations on his 6 yards per carry next week. That should go well for him. And let's just go there. Let's just go to Vikings Colts. Oh, looks like we lost Kyle. I'm not sure if Kyle's internet is down or something. Oh, nope. Kyle's back. All right. You good? Oh,
sorry about that.
Yes. You just didn't want to talk Vikings football so badly. You just exited out of the chat immediately.
Yeah, I hit the refresh button on accident. Sorry, everybody.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay. Well, we're back. Yes, no need to worry. I was just setting up the Vikings Colts game. This was a mess from pretty much every side of the ball. Everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong for Minnesota. What was your thoughts to the a rare score of 28-11? Really a blowout.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start with the positive side. So this looked like the Colts team that I picked to win the division. The
Hmm.
defense looked very aggressive. They looked great at creating some turnovers. I think that the more that the ball is out of Philip Rivers' hands is better. And I thought Jonathan Taylor looked awesome. And so I think that's the big thing with the Colts. I think that when Philip Rivers isn't being asked to throw the ball 50 times a game, this could be a really good team. Yeah, I just think that this offense can be awesome. They set the tempo on the ground. Maybe, as much as it sucks to say, as I said in the pregame thing, maybe losing Marlon Mack and setting that kind of chain of command in the backfield may be a good thing long term for the Colts. Because yeah, I think Taylor's going to be the guy going forward, and they're not going to ask Rivers to do much. He's going to make a few throws, and that's pretty much what they need to win.
Yes, I appreciate you going with the positives, being nice to everyone in the chat. Yeah, Taylor was good. Taylor had over 100 yards. That's the optimistic way to say it. He had 101 yards on 26 carries, which is actually under 4 yards per carry. But I mean, still, you'll take 100 yards even if it's 50 carries. I mean, that's a lot of work. Moali Cox with over 100 yards as well. Good, congratulate on 5 receptions. Good for him. But yeah, I mean, we got to talk about it. This stat line says it all. That Kenneth Lee put in the chat. No touchdowns, 3 interceptions, a safety, 11 for 26. I don't want to blame it all on Cousins, but this was not a good game from Cousins. And, it just has to be mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, so my biggest concern with the Vikings, the cornerback problem was a different thing altogether. My
Mm-hmm.
biggest concern with the Vikings was without Stephon Diggs in this lineup, are they going to be able to stretch the field and keep defenses honest? Well, they're 2 weeks. That answer is no.
Yeah.
They haven't been able to, if you just throw everybody at the line of scrimmage, what is this team going to do? They don't have a guy who's going to go downfield and make a big play. Justin Jefferson's been okay-ish as a rookie his first 2 games, but at the same time, he's not the threat Stephon Diggs is. And
Mm-hmm.
there's only so much you can do as Adam Thielen getting open. You can't get open every play when everyone's looking at you. I just think there's so many issues with this offense when they don't have that kind of deep threat that's keeping the defense honest. Cousins was obviously very bad in this one. I mean, I think if you look at the two panic teams through week 2, if we want to overreact a little, your two biggest panic teams are the Vikings and the Eagles. But I would say the Vikings are the number one team because now they're down 0-2 hole to the Bears and the Packers. How did they recover from this with a team that just looks like in such disarray?
Yeah, and as I said, they got the Tennessee, which is not an easy matchup next week. They also have the Texans and the Seahawks, Falcons, Packers. So a couple games where they could look good, but no gimme, and a couple of tough ones coming up as well. So this is really not a great start. And yeah, I mean, I do think it's worth mentioning. Like Cousins will have like 2 or 3 of these a year. Usually, it's every time he plays the Bears, but a couple times it's another one too, where it's like he just completely bottoms out. And I like Cousins, but I mean. I'm sorry, 11 for 26. That's not good enough. That's not going to win you games in the NFL. And he has to be better. And he usually is. But this game, he certainly was not great.
Yeah, his quarterback rating was 15.9 and his QBR was 9.3, which is
That's
yeah,
not good, right?
that my professional analysis is that is
Mhm.
also not good.
Not good. Gotcha. Yes, not great from Cousins. But let's talk about some other stuff now. Let's talk about a quarterback who would never have a game that poorly. Mitchell Trubisky leads his team to another victory. This was a very fun one. Giants at Chicago. The Bears hold on to win it. They were up 17-0. The Giants fought back. Daniel Jones had his ups and downs, threw the ball 40 times, only 241 yards, no touchdowns, and 1 interception, but did look good towards the end of it. However, a lot of it seems like the biggest loss for the Giants isn't even the game. It's losing Saquon Barkley. They almost come back and beat the Bears, but fall just short. What were your thoughts on this game and also the injury to Barkley, for which it did not look good? I think we're going to figure out exactly what happened tomorrow, but that looks tough.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was out for the year. I think is what I saw already. I mean, it may not be
It
official
looks like
yet.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's it sucks. This was the beginning of the the kind of the week of the injury almost. It seemed like during these early games, it seemed like everyone was just going to start dropping like flies. And you question the preseason, was that playing a part to it? I don't think it was that much of a thing. I just think that it was an unfortunate hit, and it sucks to see a guy like that go. He actually started out this game really good, and with all the talk about him, I was hoping for a bounce back game from him. He wasn't able to do it. And yeah, I mean, I think it sucked the life out of this game for the Giants because I didn't think the offense looked very good. Like you said, they started opening up things at the end and had a chance, but 2.5 quarters, man, Daniel Jones just did not look like he was able to get it done. Another 2 turnovers for this guy. He's never going to hit the ceiling that people want him to be as a first round pick if he can't keep the ball on his side of the field. He can't take care of it, and that's just becoming a problem more and more each week.
Well, I think it's fair to say that. I also think it's the bigger problem though is their offensive line. And they keep investing so much capital trying to fix this O line. And I mean, again, I know it's another great defense, right? It's you go up against JJ or TJ Watt, and then you're going up against Khalil Mack. It's a murderer's row. It's hard to really blame them too much. But again, I mean, he's always under pressure. And I also think on the flip side, I thought Trubisky. Again, he kind of did the opposite, where he looked good at the beginning and then just turned back into Mitchell Trubisky. But he again, Trubisky's the weirdest quarterback in the world because I could totally make a Mitchell Trubisky highlight reel, and you would think he's an elite player. Like when he makes the throw, it's incredible. And I also think that teams don't want to play man coverage against you because he can just he's so good at running around. Seemed like Chicago's plan almost was we're going to play man. We're going to not even go for a sack. Let's just keep the containment. Don't let him get outside the pocket and force him to throw the ball. And it worked out towards the end. Or I think I said Chicago. The Giants game plan. I worked out at the end. Good game. And the Bears 2-0. Could the Bears be a playoff contender here?
I think it's easy to see the path because they did it 2 years ago. They get 17 to 20 points a game and the defense just shuts everyone down. And so far, this team looks like it can do that. I want to see it against a team that, the 2 teams they've played are 0-4. I know it's early, but the 2 teams they've also played do not look like teams that are going to be close to the playoffs. So let's see this team against, teams like the Packers and see how they get better. But at the same time, you have to feel good that they're, you won 2 games and Mitch has not lost you 2 games. He's done enough to, he's in spurts played really good in both of these games. That's been enough for you to win.
Yeah, they got the Falcons next week, Colts the week after, and Tampa Bay following. So, Atlanta, that could be an interesting one of can he do enough on the offensive side of the ball. That'll be fun to watch Matt Ryan go up against this defense with how good Matt Ryan is playing. He has the best stats in the NFL right now, but no one cares because his team sucks. Let's move on. Let's go to the Rams. Beating the Eagles handedly. I'll kick this over to you. What were your initial thoughts to this one?
The Rams look like the 2018 Rams again. I question a lot of the depth on this team. I think that this is a team that if they suffered, 3-4 injuries again like they did last year, could kind of crater. But the top end talent on this team is probably as good as anybody else in football. And they looked like it again. Goff was amazing. He was good Goff. And when Jared Goff's playing this good, this team's going to win 10, 11 games. I thought he was really good in this one. He made a lot of plays, and Philly just had no option. They had no decision for their play action. Everybody was wide open anytime they ran play action, and Tyler Higbee killed him in the red zone. So it was a good one for the Rams, though. They look fantastic.
Yeah, and I think on the flip side, again, I'm being negative Nelly here on this one. There's been this amazing after I feel like the entire offseason, it was, man, Carson Wentz is so great. He's the best. We're 2 weeks in. Carson Wentz is now when the people are saying bench him. I saw he threw an interception and then the fake noise booed him. So even fake noise in Philly is booing their quarterbacks. This is, again, another stat line of not a great one where it's 26 for 43, but just 242 yards. Again, with 43 attempts, that's not good yards per attempt. No touchdowns, 2 interceptions, although he did have a rushing touchdown. Again, I don't think it's that bad. I think Wentz is good. I think it's just a slow start. But I think the Rams have an underrated defense as well. But just a good team win for LA, and they're proving that, you and I both said, don't sleep on the Rams. They have Buffalo next week, which is another interesting game, but they're looking good so far through 2 games.
Yeah, 3 teams 2-0 in the NFC West, and then, the Super Bowl runner-up 49ers at 1-1 there. That's a gauntlet of a division, and it's going to be fun. Actually, yeah, that's a gauntlet of a division that's going to be fun to watch. I almost thought I got my records mixed up. But no, that's right. All those teams are going to be really good, and that's going to be fun to watch. And I think that I don't know. I think that's going to be fun to watch. I don't know I don't know what to think about Philly. This is another team. You talked about the Giants' offensive line. They've invested so much this season into their secondary, and it continues to look suspect. I mean, I want to give them a pass because the Rams' offense is made to have secondaries look really bad in that play action, but at the same time, that seems to be just the problem for them year after year.
Yeah, I think also worth mentioning Cam Akers went down very early with a rib injury, and even despite that, Darrell Henderson is looking fantastic. I see, Big Timer says Rams need to find a way to give Henderson 15 touches per. He has an ability to be a game changer. I mean, he's been fantastic. 6.8 yards per carry on 12 carries. The Rams are back. The Rams are certainly back. No doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone kind of overreacted to last season. This team, it was
They still
almost
went
like
9-7.
Yeah, everyone thought this team went like 5-11. It seemed like,
Right.
and I think this team looked just fine. They're going to be good again. Goff is going to be in that discussion. I think there's so many good quarterbacks that he almost gets forgotten at points, but he's playing like a guy who's going to carry this team to a lot of wins, and he's going to potentially make the Pro Bowl if this team keeps winning games. I'm a big fan of Goff and what he's been able to do. He's got a great arm, and he's shown it.
Yeah, I like Goff too. I feel like people overreact. He's not a perfect player. He has his faults as a quarterback, but I think he more than makes up for it. Let's go over to the game of the week. 49ers. Things did not go well for them, or things did go well for them on the field, but not really, because this is kind of one of those games where I think nobody won. The Jets lost because they're the Jets. The 49ers lost because of a plethora of injuries. Nick Bosa looks like he's going to be done for the year, potentially, at least for a while. That could be bad. Garoppolo went down. Mostert went down despite having a big 80 yards per carry, or 80-yard carry early on. 80 yards per carry would be crazy. And even despite all of this, I feel like 80 yards per carry still wouldn't seem that unrealistic with how bad New York played. They are just an abysmal team.
Yeah, I mean, even Garoppolo looked really good to start the game too, and then he went out. Mm-hmm. And I believe Solomon Thomas at one point even went out. Did he come back too? So it's just,
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, just a complete. It was almost the worst case scenario for the 49ers because there wasn't a scenario that they're losing this game.
Right.
So I just thought that was a really good performance from them, even with the injuries. I think they could bounce back. Yeah. So fun fact for everybody: I bet this game 3 times and won 3 times. I got the line at 6, 6.5, and 7. So I didn't see any inconceivable way that the Jets would cover. And they showed once again that they're not going to be close to covering. This is a bad football team. I mean, yeah. I don't know anything else to say other than they're bad. Darnold didn't look great again. I will say, though, what's more impressive, Brady playing at 43 or Frank Gore playing at 846?
I mean, I think Frank Gore. I think Brady. I mean, what Brady does is incredible, but we see pitchers pitch that late, and Brady's so good at protecting himself. It's still, don't get me wrong, that's incredibly impressive. But if you were to tell me, what can I see someone else playing till 43? I could totally see another guy. I think what Frank Gore is doing year after year, despite the fact that he's now 37 years old, it's just absolutely absurd. One other absurd moment on I believe it was 3rd down and 31, the 49ers decided to hand the ball off, just get some yards and go for the punt. They end up converting the 3rd and 31 with a 55-yard rush. Just absolutely insane. Again, and this is the kind of thing where it was a get-right game. I checked the 49ers subreddit. They were all just disappointed. None of them were even hey, at least we won. Not even a single of that, because it was just such a depressing game. For all you kids out there, I should mention, if you do gamble responsibly. Only bet against the Jets.
Yes, only
Hmm.
bet against the Jets. That's the
Yeah.
easiest win each and every week, unless I guess they play the Dolphins.
Well, even then, I feel like yeah, maybe. What's the line? We'll see. Let's go over to Broncos Steelers. The Broncos with a surprise cover. Without Drew Lock, but the Broncos are dead. Not like as in they don't, no chance to make the playoffs. Like they're literally like all their players are dead. This has been another team that's been just decimated with injuries, and we were so excited. We were so ready to see this team come back. Cortland Sutton came back, but now Judy got banged up. And of course, the big one, Drew Lock leaving the game. Jeff Driscoll actually looked okay, weirdly, but and he played pretty decent. But I just feel like this team, they have talent. Obviously Von Miller's been out. I just think this is a team that's too banged up, and it's very disappointing. Even though they have a ton of talent, this might not be the team that we thought. This isn't the team that we both predicted to make the playoffs at the beginning of the season because they're just not the same players.
Yeah, I mean, when you don't have Von Miller and your receiving core, like you said, hasn't been perfect throughout the first 2 weeks, and then Drew Lock goes down, it's obviously a problem. I think the bright spots for the Broncos this year have been Noah Fant. I think looks awesome. I
Mm-hmm.
think he's really good. He's a really talented tight end who's going to have. He could be the best tight end in the league. He could be a top 3 tight end by next season. I think he's that good and he's that talented. I felt like it was kind of a lackluster performance from Pittsburgh. I don't know if they just felt like they could coast through this one, but I don't know. What did you think? I just felt like there wasn't a lot of wasn't a lot of enthusiasm getting this win.
Yeah, I thought their defense wasn't spectacular. Sometimes this happens where you set up your specific game plan to beat one player. That I think every now and then when like a backup comes in, sometimes it weirdly works against you, and sometimes you do have moments where if you have a specific game plan to beat a certain player, and now you have Driscoll who isn't the same kind of player that Locke is. It's just kind of a different dynamic, and I think that could have factored in. It's also early, but yeah, I mean, not the best game for Pittsburgh, but also this is classic Pittsburgh, right? When they can beat any team in the league, but they're always seemingly going to beat them by one score. But you know what? At the end of the day, I think as the old saying goes, don't complain about a win unless you're the 49ers and you get a bunch of injuries. But I think it wasn't a perfect game, but I wouldn't. I'm not too worried if I'm a Steelers fan. You're 2-0, and you play the Houston Texans next week. That should be again. I think the Texans are still a little spooky because I don't know what exactly to expect from them. But that should be interesting next week.
Yeah, I mean, they got the win. That's the most important thing. I just feel like we heard about this defense all off season, and we heard about potentially how good this offense could be with Big Ben coming back. I think they look good in week 1 in the second half. And I think they've looked good in spurts this week, but I just haven't seen them put it all together at the end and have a complete game. Obviously, it's 2 weeks, so I'm not overreacting, but I still would like to see it before I'm ready to say that this is a Super Bowl contender, which I thought they were going to be in the preseason.
Yes, they did do a good job of holding Melvin Gordon in check. Only 19 carries or 19 carries, only 70 yards. Decent job there. Let's move on. Let's just talk about the aforementioned Houston Texans losing a game that we talked a little bit about this in the pre-show. I didn't think that this was actually as bad of a performance by Houston as the score might indicate. They had a couple of they had 2 turnovers late in the second quarter that kind of sunk them a bit. This wasn't a great game from Houston, but I think it's kind of what to be expected. And again, this Baltimore team, I mean, they're going to blow most of the games they're playing. I wouldn't be surprised if they win 8-9 games by double digits.
Yeah, I mean, they look like the best team in football through 2 weeks, and the Texans have they look like the best football team in 2 weeks, and the Texans had the worst luck with playing the Chiefs and the Ravens back to back.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's the biggest thing you have to look at. It wasn't the best performance from the Texans, but you have to put in respect of what this team is and who they were going up against. 230 yards on the ground for the Ravens is just ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And Deshaun Watson was sacked 4 more times this game, and Marlon Humphrey was really good in this one. And yeah, I mean, I just think that they can be a solid team, but at the same time, I think that they're clearly below Baltimore and Kansas City, and I could put them probably a tier below a lot of the other teams that are potential playoff teams. I don't know. I don't see how this team gets past Tennessee or Indianapolis with their make right now.
Yeah, Joe Kim says Texans couldn't make adjustments in second half. Totally outcoached second half for sure. Yeah, part of what frustrates me about Bill O'Brien is that I feel like he has the scheme down. Like the offensive scheme for Watson is great. I think that's what you should do. But again, he's one of those coaches that it almost does feel like he just you know just saying, okay, let's do this play next, then this, it's just like a random order of plays that he's already doing. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of plans. It doesn't seem like he knows what he's doing in a lot of these senses. And so I think it's a real issue. Meanwhile, though, for the positives, for the Ravens, four different guys rushed for at least 48 yards, including J.K. Dobbins, who did it on just 2 carries. They had the rushing attack was back after people were like, "Hey, are they going to be more of a passing game after the week 1 against the Cleveland?" Nope, they ran the ball. They ran the ball a lot and had success with it. And Lamar was also successful through the air. And yeah, at the end of the day, this new and improved offensive line has not looked good through 2 games, and that's I think the biggest takeaway I have for Houston. And if only they could get like an elite wide receiver to help them out on the edge.
Yeah, if only they had a guy who, a tall guy with dreadlocks who could make some plays on the wide receiver position. That would really help Deshaun Watson, especially as kind of an escape valve. Yeah, I think that you can pay a lot of money and invest a lot in Laramie Tunzel, but there's still 4 other offensive line positions, and that's just proven to be a problem. So I think that's a huge thing for Houston that is just unrecoverable. And yeah, I mean, fun fact, and Bill Belichick assistants are 0-8 so far this season.
Wow, there you go. Let's talk about that guy. Let's talk about someone who's tall. The DeAndre Hopkins, I thought was incredible, even though his stat line was only 8 catches, 68 yards, and a touchdown. That's not anything crazy, but I honestly thought he was better week 2 than he was week 1. Just the stats were different. Really, this was a wire to wire. The Arizona Cardinals had the game for most of it. They were up 7-0 early on, and Kyler did throw a pick inside his own 20, so things started to look a little bit scary. Dwayne Haskins almost immediately fumbles the ball, gives it right back to Arizona, who just led the rest of the way, led 20-0 at the half. And this one was really all Arizona, and a tough one for the Balls.
Yeah. By the way, that's Balls 15. Put some respect on the name. So
Oh, that's right. Yes.
put some
Terrible.
respect on the team name, Balls, baby.
Yes.
But I mean, so the problem is, so I said during the preview show on Wednesday that I really like the Balls' makeup on defense and how it could be a sneaky contender in the NFC East. And then the problem is that the margin of error is so small for them. Like if the defense makes a big play, which they do time and time again, if they make a big play, like get an interception, you have the ball in your red zone, you can't hand the ball right back to them. This offense is kind of built that they can't make mistakes, and that's a monumental mistake. If you're getting that ball at that position, you have to get points in some shape or form. I just thought that was a really bad matchup for them too. I think that a great pass rush is neutralized by a guy like Kyler Murray and a quick passing game like the Cardinals really like to run. And the Cardinals look awesome. I mean, if it wasn't for Russ delivering this 5-course meal cooking, the Cardinals would be the talk of the NFC right now. I just think that was the biggest thing, and they continue to look really good. And I think that they're gonna, I kind of thought that they might be a year away, but they're proving that the offensive line doesn't necessarily matter. They're looking really good.
Yeah, well, and the main thing too also is that very easy schedule coming up. They play the Lions next week, who they tied the last time those 2 teams played each other. They also have here we go. The Carolina Panthers the week following, and the New York Jets. So they could easily be 5-0 before too long. We also got to talk about Dwayne Haskins a little bit. Only 19 for 33, 223 yards. Terry McLaurin had 125 of those yards, so he didn't even throw 100 yards to people not named Terry McLaurin. I don't want to get on him too much, but at the same time, it's like, listen, like at this point, it just feels like, we sort of talked about after week 1. Well, hey, Haskins, he did enough. He didn't completely screw up the offense, but at a certain point, it's like if your quarterback's best games are the ones where you're not screwing it up, it's concerning, and this isn't a great defense either. Again, you might as well start him. Like, I don't see what putting someone else in is. I don't think this is a playoff team this year. It might be, but I I don't think it is. Granted, I didn't think they were going to beat Philadelphia, but I don't know. This is not looking great so far to the start of Haskins' career, and it's looking like it could be the end of his career if he doesn't change things in a hurry.
Yeah, I mean, Haskins is kind of who we thought he was.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Denny Green there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think that he does anything great, and it's okay. I mean, that's just kind of who he is, and I don't know how it gets better. Having a guy like McLaurin obviously helps. I think the one thing I want to take away from this. So through 2 weeks, what's your NFC West power rankings?
I think. Um, So let's see. So obviously, so we got LA, we have Arizona, Cardinals, Rams, Seahawks, and 49ers. I think I have Seattle at number one right now. I think Seattle's been fantastic. I think I put Seattle at number one. You know what? People might kill me for this. Still putting Sam. Well, are we talking right now, or are we talking? I think the 49ers have too many injuries. 49ers have too many injuries. So right now, I'm going Seattle, Rams, Cardinals, 49ers because they have too many injuries. If they're healthy, I think if this is a fully healthy team, I think that I would still put them at number two, but they're not healthy. So they're number four. I still have Arizona at three. Again, two impressive wins, but I want to see what you can do a little bit more against maybe a team that you don't match up perfectly with. And I think I've been very impressed with both Seattle and LA. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously I picked Seattle to play the Ravens in the Super Bowl in
Mm-hmm.
preseason, and everything that I've seen kind of backed up my take on that one so far. I don't think the secondaries looked as good as I hoped, but I think that they're going to still be pretty good. I think that secondary does figure a lot of things out. It becomes very good by the end of the season. I think that, yeah, I don't know. I'm on the fence. I just feel like the Rams are like two offensive line injuries away from not being very good. But I mean, I guess I'd still take them right now. I still think that's a very good team, and the offense looks really explosive like it did 2 years ago. So I'm all for that. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'd go Seahawks, Rams, Cardinals, 49ers too. I don't know. The 49ers, I think, are going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious if they might get boxed out of this division because it's so talented. And especially if they're dealing with all these injuries throughout the year, how good can this team be and keep up with all these teams? It's brutal.
Yeah, it's tough. You could say the Rams are a couple injuries away. The Seahawks are one quarterback injury away from being not a very good team. I think that at the end of the day, I just think that, yeah, I'm with you. It's like for San Francisco, they play the Giants next week. So again, maybe some time to get healthy, and Philadelphia the week after. But they gotta figure. Oh, and Miami the week after. So they got a bit of a stretch here where they can sort of try to get healthier. I do think that I'm not counting them out because Kyle Shanahan he's the king of having success with not great quarterbacks. He's done this constantly. I still think that he can find a way to do it. I think Nick Mullins, there's a reason he's kept him around. I think he trusts Nick Mullins to run the system. But at the end of the day, it's not just him. It's a lot of injuries. It's going to be tough for them to overcome. But, never count out a good coach like Shanahan.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think it's going to be a fun division to watch. I can't wait.
Yeah. So we will move on now to the last Sunday game, Bills-Dolphins. This was not as close as the score would make you think, although it kind of was too. Miami did lead in the fourth quarter, but Buffalo pulled away, ended up with a 10-point lead before sort of a garbage time touchdown. And you know what? We've said a lot of bad things about Josh Allen. He goes and shuts us both right up. Listen, he still had some mistakes, right? He still overthrew Stephon Diggs. That would have been a surefire touchdown. He still had a dumb fumble where he's fighting for extra yards when he's not even close to the first down. He's not going to get the first down. He had those dumb plays. But the question for Allen is always, is he going to do enough good that outweighs the bad? I think in week one, he didn't, but they still won because they were playing the Jets. I think week two, he definitely did. Last week was the first time he ever threw for over 300 yards. This week, the first time he ever threw for over 400 yards. While stats don't always tell the story, 24 for 35 for 417 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. I don't care how bad you look in your 11 incompletions. If that's your stat line, this has to go down as a good day.
Yeah, he made the throws he needed to, and I thought Miami's coverages were really weird. Like, that last touchdown for the Bills. they had no safety over the top. And it's like, why are you running no safety over the top when it's John Brown and Stephon Diggs on the field against you? That didn't make a lot of sense to me. Obviously, he hit the deep ball there for the touchdown. He looked good, and like I said, he's going to have a lot of games where Josh Allen's the best athlete on the field, and he's going to look awesome. I'm the Bills played the Dolphins and the Jets the first 2 weeks. I'm still reserving a lot of my judgment for them until the competition steps up, but they're winning the games they need to, and they look solid. They got a little complacent there in the second half and fell asleep a little bit. Miami battled back. Miami has proven that they can be a little bit of a competitor, but I just don't think, talent-wise, it was pretty clear the the Bills were way better.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, they ran into Fitzmagic, and they still won. And listen, there's a short list of people who have ran into Fitzmagic and came away with a victory. And Fitzmagic, he threw the ball 47 times, so the 328 yards is a bit misleading. 2 touchdowns, no picks, though. I thought he was good, that wasn't totally spectacular, but the key takeaway I thought was just Allen hit the deep ball, which is exciting. Allen with a deep ball is a different quarterback than Allen without it. 153 yards for Stephon Diggs. I believe he had 3 of those deep balls, which, I mean, if he can start working that into his game, he's just a different quarterback. And you see teams are afraid to play man coverage against him. He's another one of those guys. So there are a ton of benefits. And listen, I mean, we'll see next week against the Rams. Is this sustainable, or is this just him beating up on a bad Miami Dolphins defense?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Like I said, once the defenses get better and he's in better competition, he hasn't proved a lot of times that he's good enough to perform against a lot of those teams. Now, they've obviously built a lot of they put a lot of players on this team to maximize his arm strength with guys like Brown and Diggs. Can they capitalize it on against better teams? We'll see. I think that he's looked solid. He looked good in this week, and he looked very bad besides the stat line last week, as we talked about. I think he's been solid overall, though, and he's still been, I think, one of the better quarterbacks in the AFC.
Yeah, no, listen, you can't complain about what he's done, especially this week. I mean, you can complain about stuff last week. This week, he still had, again, like, Josh Allen is never going to play a perfect game. He's just not. He's never going to have one of those, like, Russell Wilson against Atlanta week 1. That's just not who he is. He's going to make these mistakes. It's all about, does the good outweigh the bad? The good outweigh the bad this week. Let's go over to the last game we have to talk about. Cincinnati taking on Cleveland. This was a young quarterback duel in a lot of ways. I watched some of this on my Twitch stream. You guys can check me out on Twitch, Jackson Kruger Sports. Link is in the description. But very fun game, I thought. Joe Burrow threw the ball 61 times with only, the rarely seen 361 or 316 yard game that just barely gets you over 5 yards per attempt. Did have 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, had some rookie mistakes, but also looked good, very good at times. The key takeaway, though, is that the Cleveland Browns running game is just lethal. I mean, this is what we thought it would be, and then some.
Yeah, this is the Stefanski offense I was looking for. They were obviously fantastic. Hunt had 10 carries, 86 yards, a touchdown. Nick Chubb, 22 carries, 124 yards, 2 touchdowns. That duo is just going to be awesome, I think, all season. And, they're not asking, this was a game they didn't ask Baker to do a whole lot. And, he made the plays when he had to. He still had the interception. But at the same time, I still thought that this was a team that looked good. They kind of fell asleep in that late in that game. And, the Bengals pulled out that backdoor cover because they were able to, because they didn't look good in that fourth quarter. But at the same time, I thought this was a very good job from this Browns offense to make the plays they needed to. The running game looked fantastic. I thought Denzel Ward also looked really good in this one too. I thought it was a good game from the Browns and more like what they were looking for. Clearly, you can say they're obviously ahead and way below the Ravens, but this is the kind of offense and tempo they need to run to have a winning football team.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is there's enough there for Baker haters to say, oh, this wasn't great, 30 interception. There's enough there for Baker fans to say, hey, look how great, near almost 10 yards per attempt. How good. I thought this is a fine game. I think this is what this is a good game for Baker. I still think he needs to work on his consistency. He's great when he's on. But yeah, a very fun game, I thought. as a whole. And really, I think surprisingly fun week. We talked about before this week. I don't know if there's a ton of fun games. A lot of craziness to happen this week.
Yeah, I mean, it still felt kind of chalky. A lot of the favorites did end up winning, but they were really good games. I didn't think a lot of these games were going to be obvious covers, except for the Jets because of the Jets. So that's one thing. But I think every other team actually played really well. There was a lot of one-score games. The Chargers almost pulled off that upset. It was fun to watch overall, and I hope it goes into Monday night. That's going to be a fun game to watch.
Yes, should be good. All right, so I think that's our show. Thanks to everyone who watched along in the chat. See, we got a pretty good audience here. So thanks to everyone who checked this out. Before we go, Kyle, let people know where they can find some of your other stuff.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at by Kyle Grondin. That's GRONDIN by Kyle Grondin on Twitter. And you can check me out there and also at GuyBostonSports.com. I write some Patriot stuff. I didn't write Patriot stuff this week because I had this after the game. Didn't have a chance to write it. But Wednesday, you have the Patriot Way podcast on GuyBostonSports.com. I'll break down the Patriot performance in that one. If you want to talk some Patriots football, it's good stuff. And you can listen there at GuyBostonSports.com or anywhere you get your podcast. So make sure to check that out.
Yes, definitely check that out. Of course, you can always check this podcast out as well on any podcast distributor or on the Jackson Kruger Sports website. That's jacksonkrugersports.com. Also, check me out on Twitch, as I mentioned earlier, Jackson Kruger Sports. Unless Kyle, any final thoughts before we sign off?
I finished my beer and that game still hurts. That was a gut punch still. I'm still reeling from that one. Poor Cam. Almost carried that team Superman style, but it was a fun week. I enjoyed the games.
Very tough. Again, I thought this could become my catchphrase. Must be tough being a New England Patriots fan. But until next time, everyone, have a good one.
Peace.